than typical control decks do against Green-White Devotion. Sultai Charm allows you to get rid of problematic enchantments, especially Mastery of the Unseen. You've got sweepers, you've got card advantage to keep up with their sources of card advantage. I think the Sultai control deck might have a lot of game here against Green-White, whereas some of the other control decks and some of the other mid-range decks that we have that tilt towards the control side look like they had no game against Green-White Devotion. The odds-on mid-range decks we've had on camera, that matchup feels like a disaster. But I think Sultai probably has a lot of game.
Yeah, certainly game. They get better after sideboard. Hal Brady does not have much to bring in here. He has some copies of Nissa Worldwaker, but outside of that, he's really playing his game 1 deck all 3 games. And I imagine we saw Danny pick up the first sideboard game.
4 copies of Fleece mainline, I think, are fine for Hal here because it just kind of wants to attack. And Drowning Sorrows in Danny's deck most likely post-board, but not a lot going on here. 4 Fleece main lions I like, and the 2 Nissas I think are very good against Sultai.
Also that, Valorous Stance, Hornet Nest, Setessan Tactics.
Yeah, nothing here for, those cards are not for the Sultai matchup.
Let's see, going into game 3 here. Yeah, both players undefeated at 6-0. 7-0 will get him into day 2. See Danny Jessup, number 6 on our leaderboard right now.
Yeah, just defeating his buddy Jim Davis last round. Doing his part to make sure that Jim isn't walking in to the Invitational of Richmond with the Season 1 invite to the Players' Championship already sewn up.
Keeping it honest.
Trying his best. Just yeoman's work.
Well, doing his best he can so far. He's going undefeated and handed Jim Davis a loss, so that's about the most he can do. See, right now it looks like Jessup on a mulligan. Brady keeping on 7. And yep, Jessup did take the sideboard game, so Brady is going to be on the play.
Yeah, Danny Jessup's sideboard here. 3 copies of Courser Crufix, 2 Drown Sorrow, 2 Farika's Cure, 2 Negates, 2 copies of Tatsiger, a Disdainful Stroke, an Aether Spouts, a Pearl Lake Ancient, and a Cure the Crashing Wave. Actually, not a lot that I'm a huge fan of here. I think Drown Sorrow and Farika's Cure are pretty solid here. I think Tatsiger's not bad, backed up by counterspells. The game can drag out and you can do some real damage there. But
Disdainful Strokes. How do you feel like about a card like Aether Spouts in this matchup?
I think by the time you're talking about cards like that, the Green-White Devotion deck's already done too much damage. I think Aether Spouts is more for token matchups. I think it's fine against heroic strategies, but here, if Hal's doing his thing, it's not that hard for him to play around it by only sending manifest tokens. You know, he can leave some stuff back, and it's not hard for him to rebuild if you're allowing him to keep Mastery of the Unseen in play.
I will see if Jessup gets a 6. He can keep here. Remember, Danny Jessup earlier in the day won on a multi-4 on the play, so don't count him out by any stretch.
Aether Spouts definitely has the possibility of being good, but on overall, I think it's going to be net negative for Danny to bring in.
All right, Jessup keeping on 6. Starting out Forest on Brady's side, Temples on Jessup. Jessup has his mana set up just fine here, looks like, with multiple copies of Opulent Palace. Don't know how much interaction he has early on. See how good of a threat Brady can put out. We did see previously when Brady was playing Green-White Devotion against Obzon, post-board he was able to keep some very slow hands, just grind out these control decks. I don't know if he can do it, though, against Sultai.
It's a little bit more dangerous, but he does have a lot of staying power. Whisperwood Elemental, Nissa, he's got ways to outpower the Sultai deck. I don't think it's as easy to do here as it would be against Obzon because the Sultai deck has so much more card drawing, but he can still play that game.
Here's a window for Jessup. Missing on a land, Brady missed a land that turn, has 2 forests in play, and that is it right now with the 2 mana creatures, Voyaging Satyr and Sylvan Carry added. Jessup, not many plays on his own. He has a Temple, he has a blue-green Temple, a Yavimaya Coast, and then a black Temple as well. So he has his mana set up, but it's slow.
Yep, I think he just wants to most likely just hold up the Disdainful Stroke here and prevent anything big from sneaking through.
And Mastery of the Unseen, the draw for Brady, but I don't know if he has any help in so far. All right, he has Temple of Plenty. He did hit his land for the turn. Courser of Crufix, looking at that, leaves that on top. And he will go with a Fleecemane Lions. Those did come out of the sideboard for the matchup. And Mastery of the Unseen. So making a lot of plays here, and actually nothing that can be Disdainful Stroked, which I really like.
That part about it's great. Also, you know, he can say to him, you know, you got to kill the Fleecemane Lion now, or else I can go monstrous with it. And if you kill one card, I can do the other thing. If you kill my Mastery, Fleecemane goes monstrous. If you kill my Fleecemane Lion, I just start spinning Mastery of the Unseen.
So Fleecemane swings in. Brady will just pass the turn. And I like the bind he has here with this 5 mana. If Jessup wants to Sultai Charm end step, it's going to cost him the Fleeceman Lion activation. If Jessup wants to do anything with his mana, he's going to have to pay a price.
And you're seeing just how robust this green-white devotion deck is, that Hal can just say, you probably got some counter spells in your hand, you probably got some sweepers, and I can play in such a way to make those cards not matter. I'm just going to be cranking out 2/2s. If you ever tap low, Fleeceman Lion goes monstrous. And when I feel like I can get around to casting Nissa and Whisperwood Elemental, but there's no rush.
Jessup with both the Disdainful Stroke and the Sultai Charm while all this happened, and just Brady playing around it so well.
Yeah, and now
he's got the Fleeceman up to a 4/4.
And that's just step one, you know? Not like Hal's necessarily going to just win this game with the Fleeceman Lion, but it makes everything so much more complicated going forward.
Absolutely. So Mastery was taken care of, but Fleeceman Lion is now monstrous. As Jessup continues to play lands 4 mana open, he'll take 4 off Fleeceman Lion. That puts him down to 12. Hal still playing around the Disdainful Stroke. Here's Courser of Krufix. Really nice sequencing here. Gets to look at the top card. It's a forest. Gets to score a free card here. That'll gain him a life. You see Nykthos hanging out in Brady's hand.
That's the other thing. When Hal decides he wants to go wild, he can play around Disdainful Stroke by just casting multiple impactful 4 and 5 mana spells in the same turn.
Yeah.
For the time being, this board is pressuring Danny, and you know it's forcing Danny to use 1-for-1 trades on certain things.
And look at this. Danny's using Sultai Charm to draw 2, discard 1. Not taking care of the Courser, but he now forced to look for cards like a Sweeper instead.
Yeah, the ship sailed on Danny being able to win by, you know, I'll kill your Courser, I'll kill your
attrition,
Voyaging Satyr.
yeah.
You know, Hal's got good stuff in his hand. The Fleeceman Lion's going to be unchecked for most of the game, and Danny needs to now dig for a trump card because he can no longer just play a conventional game of Magic. That's not going to be good enough to win.
Danny discarding Disdainful Stroke. Such good sequencing from Hal. Especially if you look at the things that Hal's ramping into, it's stuff like Genesis Hydra, and the free card that Genesis Hydra finds is actually not counterable.
Yep.
It just puts the card in. You just put the card into play.
And Hal just in no rush to do anything. Just can nickel and dime his way, force Danny to have something big, and then try to win the game with the follow-ups if Danny does.
Yeah, there is an Ugin in Danny's hand, and it looks like that's in his new game plan, is to build up toward that. See Hal drawing for the turn, taking a free card off his Courser. And the team is going to start swinging. Fleeceman Lion, Voyaging Satyr, Courser of Krufix. Everybody wants to get in. Well, not the mana creature, but the 2/4 will do it. Here's 6 damage coming. Danny's at 12. He's got to respond, if not this turn, then next.
Yep. I mean, Hal may start pressuring his mana a little bit this turn to try to keep him off of something like casting a Dig Through Time. It's starting to get a little more attractive. Now with the Delta in hand, if he casts the Disdainful Stroke, there's still enough mana left over for Danny to dig through time.
Yep, and with Danny discarding a Disdainful Stroke, Hal's got to assume he's got another one. So we see here Genesis Hydra for 5. It's going to find Mastery of the Unseen just to put that into play. We'll see if Danny wants to cast Disdainful Stroke on Genesis Hydra anyway, but he can't counter the Mastery. That one's on the board.
Yep, and now this takes so much of the power out of the Ugin plan too, because if Hal is able to generate a couple manifest tokens in the intervening turns, Ugin's going to show up, minus, and then die.
Ugin doesn't kill colorless things,
yep.
And that's what Mastery makes.
And if Danny ever taps out for something like Ugin, unless it totally wipes the board, totally clears out Hal's action, well, now that's a window for Hal to resolve something like Whisperwood Elemental.
All right. So the Mastery's in play, but the Hydra's still on the stack, and now the Disdainful Stroke happens. But yeah, right. I mean, Jessup just has Ugin. I guess he still can Ugin minus to kill everything. Yeah, that does just get everything, I believe.
Well, the problem is that he won't be able to do it this turn.
Right.
Because he's going from 6 to 7 mana. And if next turn Hal goes, all right, I'm just going to make some manifest tokens. Yeah, and Danny's going to be Danny's most likely going to take a shot from Fleeceman Lion at the minimum. Ugin may not catch him up.
He's going to take a shot from his own Polluted Delta too, and at 6 life, that matters.
Yep.
You see him playing a Temple. He does have that 8th land, but it's another actually Polluted Delta in hand if he wants to make it on turn 8. So Jessup had a virtual 4 on that line where he casts Ugin, and that just may not be enough. And I think it's got to be on Hal's radar too. When you think what cards could beat this board other than, it's just Ugin.
Yeah, I would be surprised if Hal committed anything on the table this turn in lieu of just attacking and using Mastery of the Unseen.
So here's a swing. Courser of Krufix and Fleeceman Lion. Jessup will take at least 2 off this. Take 2 off his own fetch lands. And yeah, that Ugin will not save him. As long as Hal just doesn't activate anything.
Yeah, there's no rush. And Hal's doing this all with Whisperwood Elemental and Nissa as his backups. I mean,
He
some of
is-
his best
yeah.
cards in the matchup he hasn't even had to touch yet because he's beating Danny on the board with some of his smaller stuff.
Yeah, BioBlight will gain 2 life by shrinking the Courser. I mean, can't get enough. Hal just seems like he just knows what's in Danny's hand and is just making all of Danny's cards not do what they're supposed to do.
Yep.
And here's the draw for Jessup. He goes down to 2 off that Fleece main line, so he actually can't even sack his fetch lands to cast Ugin. So he'll go ahead and Thoughtseize. He'll end it himself. And there you have it in 3 games. Hal Brady defeats Jenny Jessup. And congratulations to Hal at 7-0. Green-White Devotion poised for another good weekend.
Just a great game there from Hal. Understood what was going on in the matchup, and it felt like the cards in Danny's hand stunk the whole game.
But they weren't bad ones.
They
That's
weren't
the
bad
thing.
ones, and it's the way that Hal navigated the games that allowed it to play out like that. I think that if a lot of people would have just had the instinct of I'm just going to jam this, I'm just going to jam Whisper